What's up guys, Pascal here and welcome to a new SAP S/4HANA Cloud Knowledge snippet. In today's snippet we are going to show you how easy it is to leverage our APIs to be able to interact from third-party applications with your SAP S/4HANA public cloud system. Now to illustrate this, what we're going to do is that we are going to be massaging data in Microsoft Excel, and we are going to then interact with SAP S/4HANA Cloud and enrich our material masters with the MRP areas of those materials. Now, MRP Areas, why have I picked it, is simply because MRP Areas is one of those objects, or sub-objects I should say, of the product master, the material master, for which the data migration cockpit doesn't cater to. Of course, what you can do is you can use the product master data mass maintenance tool in SAP S/4HANA Cloud to enrich materials that you would have migrated, and the feel of that mass maintenance tool is quite similar to what you have in the data migration cockpit, in that you can outside the system create an Excel document, then upload it into SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So what I'm showing you here is another method of updating your products with the MRP areas, and what I'm going to show you is going to allow you to create new records, so add new MRP areas to existing materials, or change the data that already exists in some of the MRP areas that you've got in your system. And thirdly, what I'm really trying to show you is how easy it is for you to be able to, for example, massage your data, churn it in Microsoft Excel, do some really fancy things in Microsoft Excel or some third-party application, and then just pump it back into the system. And you could, for example, create a sales order, a purchase order. The possibilities really are endless. So I'm just selecting this particular scenario as a different way of uploading MRP areas, but really I'm trying to show you how easy it is for somebody to interact from a third-party app with SAP S/4HANA Cloud, leveraging the APIs that we have. So the first thing that we do is we go to the API hub, and the address for that is api.sap.com, and in there we select the SAP S/4HANA Cloud package. And what we're looking for is the product master API. So we're going to just type product master and search for available APIs, and the system tells me that there are 14 that have the product master name subject in there, and the one that is of interest to me is the OData API to create, read, update product masters. And of course it's OData. We also have SOAP APIs, but OData is the one that I am interested in. So I click on it, and what I'm looking for here is the MRP area. So here we go, a product plant MRP area, and I can see that for this entity there is different methods to call the API. I can do a get call, and that is going to be very helpful if I have Excel or some other third-party application that wants to extract information from my SAP S/4HANA Cloud system. And then I have these other two methods, which is post and patch, which are going to allow me to create data using the post method, and patch is going to allow me to modify, to update an existing record in the system. Another piece of interesting information that I have in the API hub is if I go to details, I here have information regarding the communication scenarios that allow me to leverage this API. And I can see that I've got quite a few. So distributed manufacturing, product integration, SAP Analytics Cloud. And because I'm trying to update products, so the one that I'm going to be following up with is the SAP COM 0009 communication scenario. So at this point you pretty much have most of the information that you need. You also have the best practices scope item instructions that will help you to set up the communication arrangement if you are unfamiliar with that particular area, or you can also Google it. There's plenty of blogs that have already been written to cater for that. I'll just briefly show you what we've done in this system. And so in my S/4HANA Cloud system here, what I have done is I have created my own arrangement. I have also created a communication user and assigned a password to him. So there's a separate app for that called the communication user, and that's the one that you should use to create those communication users. But it's of course important because that's the communication user that I'm going to be using to call the API from Excel. Then here at the bottom we have the different services available through this communication scenario, which is based on SAP COM 0009. I see that I've got iDocs, SOAP, services available, but the one that really is of interest to me is the second one, which is OData. So this is the URL that I need, or the starting point of the URL that I need to invoke when I'm going to be calling this API. So let's go into Excel and see what we've got. So in this Excel, I'll provide it as a download, and you can of course use it to your heart's content. However, I would, as a disclaimer, say use it at your own risk. Try it in your queue system first, and whatever you do, because it is potentially going to hold very sensitive information, either because of the data that is included in the Excel document, but also the user and password that is used to invoke the API. Make sure that you make all the checks and balances that are necessary whenever you're going to be passing this file around with those credentials or that data in there. So in the Excel, you'll see there are several tabs. Then at the bottom, there's a README first, which gives you a little bit of explanations around how the fields are structured and what to do and where to put what information. So by all means, have a look at it. We also have then here at the bottom a mapping that shows you which of the MRP area fields on the UI correspond to which field in the API. And if a mapping is done here, then it means that this field is covered by this Excel. But if the field is not mapped there, then it means that this Excel doesn't currently cater to the or doesn't leverage this field in terms of interacting with the S/4HANA Cloud system. I am working on a new version of this Excel document that will allow you to pick and choose all the possible fields available in the API, but that's just not there yet. If there is a field that you need that is not there, then by all means do let me know that there is a sense of urgency, and I'll try and get that latest version out as quickly as possible. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to go to the MRP Records tab, and this is where you're going to indicate the records that you want to load. As it's indicated in the help, the first line shows you the field name as it is in the API, and on the second line it shows you the field name as it shows up on the UI in the material master. This is of course mandatory. This trifecta of the product, the plant, the MRP area is mandatory. Now you can have a material with several MRP areas in the same plant, and some could be created, some could be updated. That's okay, you can do that, but those three pieces of information are absolutely required. Then of course, depending on whether you're creating or updating a record, there are other fields that will also be mandatory, but the API, or at least the Excel, in the way that I invoke the API, doesn't check whether a field has been indicated or not. So I will leave that to you to do a first check on the functional side. So create an MRP area, determine which fields are mandatory when you are creating and or updating a record, and based on that then update this particular document. Now, as I said, there's a certain number of fields that are available for you to pick and choose, but not all of them are. There is also a couple of columns here, XML Payload in and server response. At the moment, the payload in has been coded, but not yet the server response. So I'll finish that off as well. And the XML Payload in is essentially if you want to see what is the XML payload that is passed to the system to create or update the record. So once you've put all the data in, the last thing that you need to check is the execution data. And what you have here is you need to indicate some bits of information to make this work. So the first thing you need to indicate is you need to indicate the ID of your SAP S/4HANA Cloud system. And if I go to an S4HANA Cloud system, which is this one, you can see that your URL of your S4HANA Cloud system will be my.a-number.s4hana.something, and this is the part of the URL that you need to paste. So the my plus the number of your S4HANA Cloud system is what you need to indicate in the Excel in the field that is called S4HANA Cloud System ID. The next thing that you need to put in here is the communication user. So as I said, the one that you created in the S4HANA Cloud system, and also the password. Now a password is indicated there, of course, for security reasons. I'm not showing it. And in the Excel, you'll see that the font color matches the background color, specifically in case you have some eyes, somebody looking over your shoulder, then they don't get to see what that password is. You can, of course, change the visibility by changing the color of the font. But again, beware of security concerns. If you're going to be passing this Excel document to somebody else, just beware that if you pass them this information, they will have pretty much all the pieces of information that they need to be able to potentially do harm to your system. So be very careful of that. And then we've got a couple of lines here. So the last one has really no effect at the moment. And the show XML payload, if you say yes, then what that will do, as I said earlier on, is that here it's going to update the cell with the payload that is part of the server. Now just be aware that if you do that, the cell height is going to increase quite a bit. So by all means use it, but only do it for when you're maybe debugging and you are going to be testing with 4 or 5 records, just to see what is passed to the system. But certainly if you're going to be passing quite a heavy load, I would not use that. Now this particular file has already been used, which is why we can see that the result is updated. And whenever the API is invoked for each record, it'll update this particular cell by telling you whether the record update was okay or not. So I'm just going to delete the content of these cells. If I go back to execute data, I have this Fiori-like tile that's showing me the number of records that I have to upload. And when the work is completed, it'll then give me a high-level view of whether it was successful or not. Now, once you've maintained all of the information, the next thing that you want to do is you just want to execute the API call. So you're just going to say process MRP Areas. And it could very well be that you're going to get this kind of a window. And if that happens, it should only happen once. I'm not quite sure why, but if it does, then just click on cancel. And the system or Excel is going to tell you that the CSRF token appears not to be set, so please try again, or just say OK. And usually what happens is that the second time you run it, it's going to work just fine. So I'm going to click that a second time. Okay, so now it seems that it has worked. The system counts the number of records, just confirms that there are 4 records. And now he's going to call the system. And he's going to invoke the API as many times as I've got records. And here he's come back to say, well, this one got updated okay, but all of these ones, they didn't work. And what you can see here is that there is a mode, which is update or create. Update means that the record already exists, and the system is going to be using, or at least the Excel is going to be using the patch method. If you recall, there are patch and post methods for this entity. So it's been hardwired in the Excel that if we are trying to update a record, then we use the patch method. And if we try to create a new record, then we use the post method. And what is happening here is that Excel is saying, well, okay, I was able to update this record on the basis of the information that is here, but all of these ones I could not. I've got an error. And I know so. The reason is very simple, is that these records already exist in the system. So just to make sure that this is not kind of rigged, let's have a quick look at one material. So let's go to the Manage Product Master Data, and I've created a few MRP area type materials. So let's go and pick MRP area 19. And we're just going to double check that he doesn't have an MRP area before we call the API. So I'm just going to say Let's have a look at the plant view, and then we're going to go down from the plant into the MRP area data. Let's go to MRP area, and we can see that there is absolutely no MRP area assigned to this material at the moment. So let's go ahead and go back to the main screen. I'm going to go into Excel. I'm just going to get rid of that, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to update the material code of this material, which is the one that we've just looked at that did not have the MRP area. And once again, I go back to execution data. I'm going to go to process MRP areas. Once again, it finds 4 records. So the update, I haven't changed anything, but the API has still been invoked. These other 2 are still in error because they already exist. And then the last one, you can see it says record created OK, return code 201. That's usually a good sign. So let's go into S4. Again, I'm just going to refresh the information that we've got here. I'm going to go into material MRP area 19. I'm going to go down to the plants. Oh, they're right there. And you can see that the MRP area Kanban for 1710, Pascal's product PRE, and so on and so forth. So the information that we had in the Excel has been correctly updated in my S4HANA Cloud system. Having a quick look, I can see the MRP controller is PRE, which is the one that I've got there. I've also got quickly the safety stock indicated as 20, which is right there. So looks like the API did its job, and we were able to upload MRP areas using Excel into SAP S4HANA Cloud. But once again, this was really just to leverage how easily you can also leverage our APIs to interact with your SAP S4HANA Cloud system. So I hope that this was informative. If you enjoy this video, then please like it. Remember to subscribe to our channel to be advised of new posts, and we hope to see you again very soon. Thank you very much for your support. Bye-bye.